Hello friends, welcome to our channel Learn Civil Engineering. In this series of lectures, we are going to revise the building materials through the MCQs. So here we will take a number of questions, we will analyze each option, then we will come to the conclusion. So first, the question is, which of the following is the standard size of modular brick? Options given are 19 by 9 by 9 mm, 20 by 10 by 10 mm, 20 by 10 by 10 centimeter, 19 by 9 by 9 centimeter. So what is the answer among them? So in this, answer is option D. So basically, if you take the standard or modular size of the brick, then it is 19 by 9 by 9 centimeter. Suppose if they ask you nominal size of the brick, then it is 20 by 10 by 10 centimeter. Okay, 20 by 10 by 10 centimeter. So what is the answer here? 19 by 9 by 9 centimeter, because they have given like standard size of modular brick. So basically module means nothing but a single unit. So they are asking the standard size of single unit. So obviously what will be the answer? 19 by 9 by 9 centimeter. Suppose if they ask you like nominal size of modular brick, okay, whenever you can see nominal size in the question, then it will be obviously 20 by 10 by 10. Otherwise, if they ask you like what is the size of the brick including the thickness of the mortar, then it will be like 20 by 10 by 10 centimeter. So that's the question. Okay, then second question is, what is the purpose of frog in the brick? Okay, basically what is frog? If you see a brick like this, then on the top of the brick you can find the depression like this. This depression we call as a frog. Okay, so they are asking what is the purpose of this frog. Okay, so first one they have given is to interlock the blocks, to interlock the bricks. Second one is for lucrative purpose. Third one is to hold the mortar, and fourth one is to hold the water from the slippage. Okay, first thing is frog will not interlock the bricks. Suppose if you want to do the interlocking, then one brick has to be like this, another brick has to be like this. But whether we are placing the bricks like this, no. What we are doing is, suppose if this is one brick, here we are placing the mortar, and then we are placing another brick like this. So there is no interlocking concept here. And whether we are providing it for lucrative purpose, no, because whatever the frog is there, that will not be seen in the elevation of the wall. Okay, so it doesn't serve the lucrative purpose. Then third one is to hold the mortar, which is the correct one, because whatever the frog you are providing here, that is holding the mortar in the position. Okay, so what is the purpose of the frog is to hold the mortar in the position. That is the answer. Okay, then which of the following increases shrinkage of the bricks? So they have given four options here: alumina, lime, silica and iron oxide. So now basically if you take the lime, lime will reduce the shrinkage of the bricks. Okay, lime will reduce the shrinkage of the bricks. And if you take the silica, silica also reduces shrinkage. And if you take iron oxide, okay, iron oxide gives what? Iron oxide gives the color to the brick. Okay, now the thing is, whatever these three chemicals are there, they will not show any negative impact on the shrinkage. So which chemical causes the shrinkage of the brick is, that is the alumina. So the problem with alumina is basically alumina causes the plasticity to the brick. Alumina causes the plasticity to the brick. But if the alumina is excess, then it will cause the shrinkage. Okay, excess of alumina causes what? A shrinkage. But whatever this lime and silica are there, what they does, they will reduce the shrinkage. Okay, so what is the answer here? Alumina is the answer. Then the next one is, which is the dominant compound in the brick earth? So basically if you take the brick earth, it consists of 6 chemicals totally. Okay, brick earth consists of totally 6 chemicals. So those chemicals are silica, okay, silica, then alumina, lime, iron oxide, magnesia and alkalis. So these are the 6 chemicals in the brick earth. Now if you take the silica, it will be 50 to 60%. If you take the alumina, that will be 20 to 30%. If you take that will be lime, that will be less than 10%. If you take iron oxide, that will be less than 7%. If you take magnesia, that will be less than 1%. And if you take the alkalis, that should be less than 10%. So what should be the answer here? Silica should be the answer. Okay, silica should be how much? 50 to 60%. So the dominant compound in the brick earth is silica, that is 50 to 60%. Next after silica, what is that? Alumina. Next after that, it is lime, like that it is. Okay. Then next question. Bricks obtained from the dry clay machine molding are called as. Okay, so basically in the machine molding, there are two types. One is the plastic clay machine molding and another one is the dry clay machine molding. Okay, in machine molding, two types are there. What are they? Plastic clay machine molding and dry clay machine molding. So here question asked is bricks obtained from the dry clay machine molding are called as. Basically bricks obtained from the plastic clay machine molding, they are called as wire cut bricks, and bricks obtained from the dry clay machine molding, they are called as pressed bricks. Okay, bricks obtained from the dry clay machine molding, they are called as pressed bricks. So pressed brick is the answer here. And bricks obtained from the plastic clay machine molding, that is called as the wire cut bricks. Then if the strength of the bricks is high, okay, the strength of the bricks is greater than or equal to 40 Newton per mm square, that is called as heavy duty bricks. Okay, then what is perforated bricks is, suppose if the brick has perforations like this, if the bricks has holes like this, that is called as perforated bricks. Okay, so these are the options. So what is the answer here? Bricks obtained from the dry clay machine molding, they are called as pressed bricks. The next one is equipment used for tempering of clay is. Okay, so basically if you take the kiln clamp, they are used for which purpose? They are used for the purpose of burning. And whatever the dryer is there, that is used for the purpose of drying. And whatever the pug mill is there, that is used for the purpose of tempering. So what is the answer here is pug mill. So basically pug mill is used for tempering of the clay. And what is tempering is addition of water and pressing the clay. So if you want to mold the clay into the required shape, first we have to press the clay. Okay, so that process of pressing is called as tempering, and that tempering we do in the pug mills. Next one, in which of the stage of burning brick gains the red color? Okay, so basically in burning process, three stages are there. First one is the dehydration, and second one is the oxidation, third one is the vitrification. Okay, in burning process, three stages are there: dehydration, oxidation, and vitrification. Whatever this blending is there, blending means nothing but mixing. Okay, so mixing is not at all related to the burning, so we can eliminate directly this option. Okay, then in dehydration stage of burning, the temperature will be usually 0 to 650 degrees centigrade, and in this stage what happens is water will be evaporated. In this stage what happens? Water is evaporated. So that you can see in the option itself. Dehydration means evaporation of water. Next one is oxidation. So in the oxidation stage what happens is brick gains the reddish color. Okay, in the oxidation stage what happens? Brick gains the reddish color by oxidation of iron ion. Okay, whatever the iron ion is there, that is subjected to the oxidation, and because of that oxidation brick gains the reddish color. Then next one is vitrification. In vitrification stage what happens is clay loses the water absorption capacity. Clay loses what? Water absorption capacity. That means it will not lose completely, but this water absorption capacity of the clay reduces here. Okay, so what is the answer here? Oxidation, because in the oxidation stage brick gains a reddish color by the oxidation of the iron ore. And in the dehydration stage of burning what happens? Water will be eliminated. In the vitrification stage what happens? brick will reduce its water absorption capacity. Okay, then next question is, which of the following is the minimum compressive strength of first class brick? Okay, so basically bricks are classified into four classes. Okay, there is field classification of the brick, and as per this field classification, four types of bricks are there. Okay, they are first class, second class, third class, and fourth class. So when I say first class bricks, basically their compressive strength is 10.5 Newton per mm square, and for second class it is 7 Newton per mm square, and for third class it is 3.5 Newton per mm square, and for fourth class brick there is no strength criteria. Okay, so now the answer is how much? 10.5 Newton per mm square, and what is the equivalent answer here? 10.5 MPa. Suppose if they ask you in kg per centimeter square, then that will be 105 kg per centimeter square. So in kg per centimeter square, it is 105, and if it is in the Newton per mm square or MPa, then it will be how much? 10.5 MPa. And for second class brick, what is the compressive strength? 7 Newton per mm square. For third class brick, how much? 3.5 Newton per mm square. Okay, so that's the thing. Next one is, as per IS 1077-92, water absorption of a brick used in construction should not be more than. Okay, so basically as per this code, the water absorption of the brick used in the construction, that should not be more than 20%. Okay, and suppose if you take the higher class brick, okay, if you take the higher class brick where the compressive strength is greater than or equal to 15 Newton per mm square. Okay, if the compressive strength of the brick is greater than or equal to 15 Newton per mm square, then it is called as higher class brick. For that, water absorption should not be more than 15%. Suppose if you take the heavy duty brick. So when I say heavy duty brick, its compressive strength is greater than or equal to 14 Newton per mm square. So for that brick, water absorption should not be more than 10%. So if they ask you simply like for the brick used in the construction, then it is 20%. Brick used in construction. So what will be the answer here? 20% will be the answer. If they ask you heavy duty brick, then it is 10%. If they ask you higher class brick, then it is how much? If they ask you higher class brick, then it is how much? It is 15%. Then for heavy duty bricks, a maximum level of efflorescence can be. So basically efflorescence level is classified into 5 types. They are slight, moderate, first one is nil, and fourth one is heavy, and fifth one is serious. These are the levels of efflorescence. Now if you take the heavy duty bricks, for that efflorescence level should not exceed nil. And for the higher class brick where the compressive strength is greater than 15 Newton per mm square, and for that it should not be more than slight, then simply if they ask you for the brick efflorescence level should not be more than, then it is moderate. Okay, so here in the question they're asking like for heavy duty bricks maximum level of efflorescence can be, that is how much? It should not be more than nil. And for the higher class brick it should not be more than slight, and for the brick used in the construction it should not be more than how much? Moderate. Okay, that's the thing. So for the heavy duty brick, what is the minimum compressive strength required? 14 Newton per mm square. Then next one is, which of the following is neutral refractory bricks? So basically refractory brick means brick with which can withstand high temperature. Okay, so bricks which can withstand high temperature, they are called as refractory bricks. Now in the refractory bricks different types are there. They are acidic bricks, neutral refractory bricks, and basic refractory bricks. Okay, so the example for the acidic refractory brick is silica bricks. Okay, example of the acidic refractory brick is silica bricks, and neutral refractory brick is chromite bricks, and basic refractory brick is magnesite bricks. Okay, so for the acidic example is silica bricks, for the neutral example is chromite bricks, for the basic brick example is magnesite bricks. And what do you mean by refractory brick? A brick which can withstand high temperature. So what will be the answer here? For neutral brick it is chromite bricks, and silica is the example for the acidic bricks, and magnesia is the example for the basic bricks. So see the next question. Portion of the brick obtained by making a cut from the center of the structure to center of the header is called as. So basically if you take the brick which is like this portion is called as stretcher, this face is called as longer face is called as stretcher, and this shorter face is called as header. Okay, so now they are asking like portion of the brick obtained by making a cut from center of the stretcher to center of the header. So this is the center of the stretcher and this is the center of header. Here also there will be another header. Okay, so now if you cut the brick like this is called as what? So now basically if you take a brick, you can cut the brick from like this, that means from the center of the stretcher to center of the header. Okay, here the brick is cut from center of stretcher to center of the header. So this kind of brick is called as, this kind of brick portion is called as king closure. Suppose if the brick is cut from corner of the center of the header to, this is the center of the header, so center of header to, and this is the corner of the stretcher here. Okay, so center of the header to corner of the stretcher. So this kind of brick is called as beveled closure. And now if you cut the brick from corner of the header to center of the stretcher, that is called as mitred closure. So now the question is asked like from the center of the stretcher to center of the header, so what will be the answer? King closure. Then what is queen closure is, suppose if the brick is like this, and if you make the cut along the length of the brick, okay, if you make the cut along the length of the brick, so this portion of the brick is called as queen closure. Okay, so when I say mitred queen closure, you have to make the cut along the length. When I say king closure, you have to make the cut from center of the stretcher to center of the header. When I say mitred closure, you have to make the cut from center of the header to corner of the stretcher. When I say beveled closure, you have to cut from corner of the header to center of the stretcher. Okay, that's the thing. Then next one is, which of the following is lap length? Which of the following is lap length in brick masonry? Okay, which of the following is the lap length in brick masonry? So basically what is lap length is, if you take the bricks like this, if you take the masonry like this, then we arrange the bricks like this. We never allow the vertical joints of successive courses to meet. Okay, this is the stretcher, suppose stretcher, header, header, stretcher, stretcher, header. So what we do is, we will never allow the vertical joints of alternate courses, vertical joint of successive courses in the same line. Instead, we will maintain some horizontal distance between them. So this horizontal distance between vertical joints of successive courses, that is called as lap length. So what is lap length? Horizontal distance between vertical joints of successive courses. That is the answer. So that you can see here. The next one is, in which of the bond lap length is maximum in the brick masonry? So now if you take the English bond, lap length is 4.5 centimeters basically. And in the Flemish bond also it is 4.5 centimeters. In the stretcher bond it is 9 centimeters, and in the header bond it is 4.5 centimeters. So the only bond in which lap length is 9 centimeters is, that is the stretcher bond. So that will be the answer. So in the stretcher bond lap length is maximum. Okay, then next question is, in which of the bond each course consists of alternate stretcher and alternate headers? So basically if you take the stretcher bond, it completely consists of the stretchers, and if you take the header bond, completely consists of the headers. And if you take the English bond, it consists of one stretcher course and one header course. And if you take the Flemish bond, each course consists of alternate stretcher and header. Alternate stretcher and alternate header. That means in each course what we will do is, first we will keep one stretcher and next beside that we will keep one header, and again we will keep a stretcher and again we will keep header. That will be the Flemish bond. Okay, so what they're asking in the question, in which of the bond each course consists of alternate stretcher and alternate header. So that is those, so Flemish bond is the answer here. The next one, in which of the bond bricks are placed inclined to the face of the wall. Okay, so basically if you take the Dutch bond, it will be almost similar to the English bond. The Dutch bond is almost similar to the English bond, but we will not place the inclined bricks here. And again, if you take English bond, we will not place the bricks inclined to the face of the wall. But if you take the raking bond, what we do is, suppose if you see the elevation of the wall like this, then we will place the bricks inclinedly like this. Okay, so because of placing the bricks inclinedly, the bond between the bricks will be developed. Okay, so in the raking bond, bricks are placed in the inclined manner. So next one is cavity bond. In case of the cavity bond, so next one is the cavity bond, which is not at all a type of bond. So cavity bond is not the type of bond, but there exists walls called as cavity walls. So what are these cavity walls is, so while constructing a single wall, in between the wall, if you provide the spacing, if some hollow portion is there, that is called as cavity wall. So here the question is asked like, in which of the bond bricks are placed inclined to the face of the wall. That is a raking bond. Okay, so that's the answer. And the last question is, which of the following defect is caused by bituminous matter in the brick? So here four options are there. First one, bloating. What is bloating is, if the brick consists of carbonaceous matter, okay, if the brick consists of carbonaceous matter, then on the top of the brick you can see the spongy swollen mass. Okay, you can see the spongy swollen mass. Okay, that means some type of swelling you can observe on the top of the brick, that is called as bloating. And what is chafes is, on the brick if the rainwater falls, on the brick if the rainwater falls, the defect caused is called as chafe. What is black core is, if the brick consists of bituminous matter. Okay, if the brick consists of bituminous matter, then brick will be turned into the black color inside. So that is called as black core. Next one is efflorescence. Efflorescence means it is caused by the alkalis and it is the formation of white or yellow patches. So what will be the answer here? Black core is the answer. Black core is caused by the bituminous matter and bloating is caused by the carbonaceous matter. In the bloating what happens is, brick obtains the spongy swollen mass like this, and chafes happens because of the falling of rainwater. So these are the important questions in the brick masonry. So if you like this video, please share it to your friends and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Okay, thank you.